The following episode of Dave's Video Graveyard contains spoilers and naughty words. Listener discretion is advised.
Have you ever bought or rented a videotape that wasn't quite right? It may have been a pirate copy.
Ratings advice. Use it. It's on every...
We're going streaking!
Dave's Video Graveyard.
That guy in a little coat.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I'm not a smart man.
Shut up! One tubby.
What's wrong with him?
My first thought would be alive.
Why so serious?
Wise man say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
Hail to the king, baby.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf!
Of all the radio shows in the world, this is definitely one of them. Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 Wow FM.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
It is 100.5 Wow FM, Dave's Video Graveyard for your Monday night. A massive pleasure to be with you. Whatever you may be doing, maybe you're still enjoying the 12th hour of the Snyder Cut. Whatever you're doing, it's an absolute pleasure to be with you this evening. It is time once again for a guest choice special, and tonight we are putting the David in Dave's Video Graveyard. We are joined by David Gregan. He is a local cinematographer and kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to filmmaking. So there's going to be a lot of technical terms, but don't worry, there will be the usual film wank as per usual here on DVG. David, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me on the show.
Now, I've got to say, of all the guests I've had, huge fan of your first name.
Thank you very much, and same with yours.
Thank you very much. I grew it myself. Now, you are a cinematographer, so essentially you are at all times the most insufferable person on the film set. Is that fair enough to say, or would you point the finger towards the director in that case?
No, I would say I'm definitely the most insufferable because I'm usually spending the most money on the film on camera equipment.
Yes.
And basically going, look, if you don't have this X piece of very expensive gear, your film is going to be really, really crap.
Right. So you're essentially the drummer that buys the rack mount for his cymbals.
Pretty much.
You're the drummer of the movie.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. The backbone of the film, and then probably complains the most about the catering as well if it's not to my liking, you know.
And you're not even a fat guy.
I know. With all that catering, you'd think I would, and all the beer I drink as well.
That's it. When your eyes on the catering, it's like, he should be a fat guy. But you're not. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on why you became a cinematographer?
Yeah, well, I guess it was interesting. I grew up in a small country town, so I grew up in, well, it's not that small, I guess. I grew up in Murray Bridge, and I think a lot of it was to do with the fact that there wasn't that much to do in Murray Bridge, really. Like, it's a great town, and I'm really glad I grew up there rather than the city because, you know, like, I'd spend a lot of time, you know, riding my bike and, you know, I played soccer and watched a lot of movies because there really wasn't like that much to do there. So we had to sort of be creative, but that was one way, I guess, my parents sort of kept, you know, me and my brother quite entertained. Is there was lots of trips to the video store, lots of trips to the local cinema.
Yep.
And I think just, you know, like watching all these movies and really getting into movies, I think sort of paved my path onto wanting to be a filmmaker myself. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, we have a little bit of a off-the-spur quiz. It's so that everyone can judge you as a person.
Excellent.
And decide that they hate you early on in the show.
Brilliant.
Nothing's worse than that happening about halfway into the show. So
Absolutely.
we like our listener to get upset at you right near the beginning. So
Perfect.
This goes out to that one person. So, Harry Potter or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Lovely answer. Fantastic. Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones?
Breaking Bad.
There's no right or wrong. I've seen one episode of both, so there's no right or wrong. Selma Hayek or Selma Hayek?
Selma Hayek From Dusk Till Dawn.
You've nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Lord of the Rings or Back to the Future?
Back to the Future.
Nice. Wow, a lot of film nerds. You get them jumping on the production value of Lord of the Rings, so that's fantastic that you've gone with the classic.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio? And it can be from your favourite thing that they're in. So, you got Gilbert Grape up against Fury, your two favourite films from them too, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. Look, I'm just going to go, because I have not thought this through at all, I'm just going to go with Brad Pitt because of the last thing I saw him in was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
All right.
And I quite like that film. So hopefully nobody hates me too. Well, they might now.
No way. Not a film that pretty much caters to you as a person. Why do you like it? Shawshank Redemption or Stand By Me?
Stand By Me.
Good answer. Very good answer. Edward Scissorhands or The Nightmare Before Christmas?
Edward Scissorhands.
Good answer. Johnny Depp or Gene Wilder?
Johnny Depp. Because of Edward Scissorhands, I think.
That's fine. Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone?
10 years ago, I said Sly. I reckon nowadays I'm going to go Arnie.
Nice. The Witches or Matilda?
Never seen The Witches, so I'm going to go with Matilda.
It's the correct answer anyway. The Lost Boys or Interview with the Vampire?
Lost Boys.
Good answer. Batman or Spider-Man?
Batman.
Nice. This one's a very important question. Aggro or Cheese TV?
Cheese TV.
Okay, cool. Pizzas or burgers?
I'm going to go burgers.
Nice. Any particular... I'm a chicken burger person. What's your burger of choice?
I think I'm a chicken burger guy as well, because I probably have eaten a lot more cheeseburgers in my life, and then chicken burgers I've eaten less of, so I'm more into them now.
I like burgers because you can eat them in front of people, but you can't eat an entire pizza in front of people.
That's true.
So it's two different, delights. Ninja Turtles or Ghostbusters?
Oh, this is the tough one. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm going to go Ghostbusters.
That's fine. Each to its own. You are more than welcome to be wrong. Friends or Seinfeld?
Seinfeld.
Awesome. And the final question, that's not part of the quiz, but it should be. If you could make the entire world watch just one movie once, so everyone you've ever met has seen this film, what is it?
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead, the original?
Yep.
Good call. Very good call. Now, don't forget this evening, you can join in the conversation by jumping on our social medias, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Just look for Dave's Video Graveyard on WOW FM and tell David at any point when he's wrong. And all corrections can be directed to the closest bin to where you are listening. This is 100.5 WOW FM. We're going to kick things off with a little bit of music here on 100.5 WOW FM.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All the movies, none of the knowledge. This is DVG on WOW FM.
It is Dave's Video Graveyard. David Gregan is in the seat. It is time for the High Fidelity quiz, so named because it's stolen from High Fidelity here on WOW FM. Make sure you check out Shannon every Sunday night from 8. One of the best ways to get to sleep and start the week off perfectly. We are here with the High Fidelity quiz. It is time, David. These are very important questions, and the world will change if you get them wrong. And, a few years from now, Zack Snyder will come back and re-answer your questions and put them out in the world and make the world good again.
Yeah, and probably in square format as
and
well.
Oh, man. I thought I downloaded the wrong illegal AVI file, but nope, that's what he went with. Here is the guest choice. Well, here is the High Fidelity quiz. What was your local video store growing up?
It was Movieland, Murray Bridge, but also the competing video store, which was Village Video, the smaller version.
Right.
Yeah. We had two.
Was that mum and pop, or was Village a franchise?
Village was a mum and pop store. So
lovely.
Yes. Yeah.
You've got to have, and seeing your list this evening, not to spoil anything, a lot of horror, a lot of splatter horror and stuff.
Yep.
that's where your mum and pop come in. Like, that's where I was cultured in all the splatter horror and, you know, all the trauma movies that you'd ever want, right there in the mum and pop stores. But if you wanted 8 copies of Broken Arrow, you'd go to the franchise place, which everyone does.
Absolutely.
Okay, you're 10 years old. What is your favourite TV show, ice cream, junk food, book, and toy?
Okay, so my favourite TV show would have been Batman, the animated series.
Lovely.
My favourite ice cream would have been Maxibon.
Lovely.
Yep.
A timeless classic.
A timeless classic. You got the biscuit on one end and the crunchy one with the nuts in it, I think, at the other end.
Yep.
Yeah. It was book next, was it?
The next is junk food.
Junk food. Would be popcorn, maybe?
Cool.
Yeah. Cool, man. I sort of stumbled a bit on that one.
You sounded so unsure. I couldn't help but give you credit.
And then book. And book was Mick Foley's autobiography, which was called Have a Nice Day, A Tale of Sweat and Sock Puppets.
Just once, I'd really love one of my guests to lower themselves enough and reveal enough of their soul just to say Animorphs. Just once. It's all I want. Just once. I need someone else to admit they loved Animorphs from the Scholastic Book Fair. And your favourite toy as a 10-year-old?
Batman, the animated series figures.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What a great choice. You're building your own Mount Rushmore of actors or actresses?
Yep.
Who's going on there?
Ooh, I was actually thinking my 4 favourite characters from Revenge of the Nerds. So I was going to go Lewis, who was not David Carradine, Robert Carradine, and then Gilbert, who was played by Anthony Edwards from ER, I think.
Yep.
Booger and Lamar.
Wow.
Yes.
Nice.
So I think I just like that literally because it'd be hilarious to see them on a mountain.
Would you pretend it's not the world that we live in now? It's 2018 and life is great. Would you rather see a movie at home or at the cinemas?
I'd probably still prefer the cinema.
Yep, cool. Food of choice when you're at the cinema?
M&M's.
Nice. Which fictional character do you relate with the most?
I reckon it'd probably be Steve Buscemi in Living in Oblivion.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a film that I haven't thought about for a long time.
Yeah. He's a filmmaker. He's a film director in it. Yeah.
I remember the cover as like all the swirls, the black and white swirls behind him.
That's it.
Who would play you in your biopic?
Steve Buscemi.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. A Billy Madison era Steve Buscemi, complete with the lipstick.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. It'd either be that or in The Wedding Singer where he says, Harold doesn't beat up his landlord.
My favourite line is when he strums the guitar and goes, "Look at that, Dad, self-taught." And I was like, beautiful.
No lessons need, pops.
Lovely. Which film that didn't get one deserves a sequel?
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I would go with that. Man, that's a fun movie.
It is.
Check out our podcast on it. Which movie freaked you out the most as a child?
Ooh, E.T. actually freaked me out. And secondly, if I'm allowed to, is Return to Oz, The Wheelers.
The Wheelers, Beware the Wheelers is so terrifying. We once went on a family holiday when I was young to Dubbo, of all places.
Oh, nice.
And at the little playground we went to, in the cement pipe that you could play in, someone had spray painted Beware the Wheelers. And I did not go to that park for like 3 years of my life.
That is brilliant.
I was so scared. For me, it was the cover, not even the movie, the front cover of the VHS of Communion scared me so much that I couldn't even go. I used to go to the science fiction section and flip that over just so I could stand there and look at the adult section over the other side.
I would 100% agree with that. I do remember that Alien cover. I think I saw it the other day and I was just like, yeah, I remember that. That's burnt in my memory.
Yes. Which TV show or movie from your childhood would you personally reboot?
I was actually thinking, this is going to be weird, but I reckon I would love to reboot Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling.
Wow. You've got one viewer.
And that's it.
That would be amazing. If you could drive one vehicle from any movie, what would it be?
I reckon the 1989 or 1992 Batmobile, I reckon.
Fantastic. Because you like to set some clowns on fire with your exhaust port?
Absolutely.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
If you could choose one film, I already said that in the other one. If you could add your favourite fictional character to any film, who would it be and what would the movie be?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I think immediately coming to mind, they'd make a second Freddy versus Jason and just pop Michael Myers in there.
Yep.
Or, yeah, no, that's it. That's my answer.
Lovely. That would be fantastic. Well, that is the High Fidelity quiz. It's time for a little bit of music, and then we'll be getting into your top 10 movies of all time. This is 100.5 WOW FM.
I just realized something. I never actually killed anyone before. I mean, I dropped bombs on Baghdad, but never face to face. I don't know what the big deal is. I really don't.
Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 WOW FM.
And as with any list that ever gets made, there's things that get left off because we run out of time. But we're starting off this evening. David, you have some honourable mentions that didn't quite make it into the top 10. What were they?
Okay. First on that list is the Kevin Smith film Clerks. It was very hard to not have that on the list. Classic first film from Kevin. Black and white, about a guy working in a convenience store. Very much reminded me of working in retail, how shit it is, and just some of the annoying people you'd have to deal with. And it's really good, like indie cinema. I thoroughly enjoyed it,
Nice. The next thing on your list is Cocoon.
Yep.
Now, finding out that Wilford Brimley was 49 when that movie came out is horrifying.
It is, isn't it?
You even go back to 82 and you watch The Thing, and it's like, he was at least 60 back then, surely.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, The Thing was 82, was it?
85, I reckon, the first Cocoon came out.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, no, The Thing was 82, yeah.
Thing was 82, Cocoon was 85, yeah. So he would have been 47 or something like that, 46.
Yeah. He lived a tough life.
Yes, he did. Yeah, it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I think, even Wilford Brimley only died last year or something.
Yeah. I believe I remember reading, I could be wrong, he was actually one of the bodyguards for Howard Hughes back in the day.
Really?
Like the filmmaker, which is insane that he went on to be in The Thing. Because one of Howard Hughes' biggest movies was The Thing, like the original...
it was too.
What Goes There, or not What Goes There, but The Thing from Another World.
Yeah, that's right, yes.
So I'm like, that's a pretty cool little thing. Like, he's actually a tough guy, which is why he looks so old.
So old, yes.
That's a lovely movie. Nothing wrong with a bit of... We don't get much of Gutenberg here on DVD, sadly.
Really?
Yeah.
Not
it's
even
a bit
with
of a
Police
travesty.
Academy?
No one likes it. I revisit it all the time. When podcasters are like, oh, this movie's problematic... If I was going to say that, Police Academy would be in there. Because, anytime that becoming a policeman involves, tricking cadets to go to a gay bar, you know you're in for a good movie.
Absolutely, yeah. And it just gets better and better after that into a seventh film, surely.
Exactly. Till they go to Moscow, I'm on board. That's where they lose me. The Breakfast Club is another one of your honourable mentions.
It is, yeah. I think it's once again one of those films that I watched when I was a teenager, and it was on... really late at night as a double wheel with Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and Fast Times should probably be on the honourable as well, but you can't fit everything.
Cate's coming out of the pool.
I know.
Picks it for me.
I know. It's just one of those classic Brat Pack films. Estevez and Anthony Michael Hall, Molly Ringwald, all that.
Judd Nelson, known from Shaq Steele.
Yes, that's right.
What a movie. Your next one on the list, Mad Max 2.
Yes.
That goes... No explanation needed there whatsoever.
Absolutely not.
And the final honourable mention this evening, Ghost World.
Yes.
That's the Steve Buscemi record nerd loner dude
That's
one.
That's it.
Haven't seen much of it, but I keep for some reason, over the years, that's a movie where I've seen 10 minutes at a time.
Yep.
I've probably seen the entire film, but yeah.
In little 10-minute chunks.
Yeah, pretty much. It's one of those free-to-air darlings where every time you turn it on, it's I'm guessing that Sonic the Hedgehog's just finished, because now the next movie is this. It's like a filler. It's the filler that they put on. Anyway, we're going to start with your actual list now, and let's start off with hearing from the trailer. This is 100.5 WOW FM.
Relax, don't you rest when you want to. What is this?
A center for ants?
What? How can we be expected to teach children to learn how to read if they can't even fit inside the building? The center has to be at least 3 times bigger than this.
Talking movies on the radio. This is Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 WOW FM.
How many zombie movies are 45 Grave going to release an absolute banger for? The first choice from the year of the birth of our Lord, that is me, 1985, Return of the Living Dead. What a fantastic start to this evening. Why did you pick this movie?
I just love zombie movies. And I love horror comedy as well. So for me, it's like, it's the ultimate.
I would have also taken the answer trash naked on top of the gravestones, but that's a totally good answer as well.
Oh, yeah. I definitely would have gotten to that at some stage. Was it trash is taking off her clothes again?
I love this movie, and even the story behind it, where originally this was going to be the sequel to Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
And then through fights and infighting and all this other stuff and everything falling through, Dan O'Bannon's like, well, I'm still going to make it.
Yep.
It was going to be serious until they started making it, and they kept punching it up. And we ended up with this, one of the proto-comedy horrors that was as funny as it was scary, and neither took away from the other. Much like Shaun of the Dead gets credited for that a lot. The heart in it is fantastic. The zombie in it is fantastic. This is another example. The practical effects in this are unbelievable. Tarman might look a little bit silly, but there is a autopsy zombie that steals the show for this movie for me.
It's so good. I love the autopsy zombie and the split dog. If you remember the split dog,
half dog. Yeah. Yep. It's cool too, because it kind of, like, by hinting at being part of the George A. Romero universe, this gives you the origin story of the zombies.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's basically 2 idiots in a medical storage, military medical storage area, mucking around with these barrels, accidentally open one, and there's a dead body inside, and it reanimates, which is Tarman. And then they decide to hide what they've done. They take the zombie to the local crematorium, put it in, which causes acid rain, which comes down, soaks into the cemetery, and voila, we have zombies. I always wanted to name my punk band Send More Paramedics, and then I looked on MySpace back in the day. There was already like 10 bands called Send More Paramedics.
Absolutely.
What a fantastic movie. How often do you revisit this one?
I reckon I watch it every year, I think. Yeah, I reckon once a year. If my brother is like down from Melbourne, we'll usually, chuck it on, have a few drinks and enjoy it. It's just always been, most of these movies we'll be talking about are all like, they're my favourites, but also they're like for pure nostalgia as well.
Oh, 100%. That's what it's all about.
Exactly, yeah. And it's like, Return of the Living Dead's great, and it came out exactly the same year, 1985, the best year ever, because we were both born.
That's it.
And Day of the Dead was also released in that same year.
Cool. Both ends of the scale with that one.
Absolutely. Day of the Dead, also a fantastic film. But and I think, I'm not 100% sure, I could be wrong here, but I think part of the sort of reason they went down like a comedy thing was they knew that George Romero was doing another zombie movie, and they knew it'd be serious. So they're like, well,
we're not going to compete with the big dog.
Exactly. So, yeah.
That'd be like wanting to release a movie that's got real snappy dialogue up against Tarantino.
Yeah.
Maybe we should make it a silent film instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a fantastic choice. And we're going from one 80s classic to the next. This is DVG.
What were they, cycles? Or?
They look like psychos? Is that what they look like? They were vampires. Psychos do not explode when sunlight hits them. I don't give a how crazy they are.
Talking movies on the radio. This is Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 WOW FM.
Only after dark.
The movie that ruined a whole generation of people named Dexter. It just absolutely ruined their life. Why did you choose Revenge of the Nerds from 1984?
Well, once again, Dave, it's all to do with nostalgia, and this film, I think, without doubt, I would have hired this more times at the video store than anyone else in Murray Bridge. Surely. It was, I think every couple of weeks we rented it. And, once again, it just goes back to one of those things that was just like a constant thing in the household, back when, you couldn't exactly buy, VHS tapes readily. I think it really sort of got me into the whole 80s sex comedy type thing. Also, it was one of those films where it was rated M, so my parents would just be like, "Oh, this is okay. This is fine. You can't have Friday the 13th Part 3 because it's rated R." But Revenge of the Nerds looks okay. I think it's it's so good in terms of it gives us even down to the soundtrack. You got some Michael Jackson in there, you got Talking Heads, you got, even We Are the Champions sort of makes its way at the end. And
the nerd rap, the iconic nerd rap.
Oh, that's right, yes, at the end, yes. I think it's just one of those films where it was very reminiscent of a time in, my sort of youth where we would just rewatch this film over and over again, and like a lot of us, we sort of know all the words, all the songs, and it's just it's a total trip for us.
It's one of those movies that quite often gets brought up on lists of this movie couldn't get made today, which is true, but we really like to emphasize that you kind of got to take a lot of these movies in the context of they are a product of their time. But that's what's so fantastic about them. Because if you're going to go look at them and go, I don't like this about the story, I don't like this, I don't like when they trick the girl to do this and stuff like that, that's fair enough. But if you're going to hate that, you have to hate the music, you have to hate what they're wearing, because it is of the time. It
Absolutely.
It's not 2021 in this movie.
No, it isn't.
And honestly, I'm so surprised that anyone was named Dexter after this movie was made. Honestly, surely it ruined a lot of people's names where they were I wonder how many people grew up with the nickname Booger as well. I actually know one guy whose nickname was Booger.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Based on the film or based on other reasons?
Other reasons. Probably similar to the original Booger of all things as well. It's so funny how often you see one of the members of the movie turn up in something else.
Yeah.
Particularly talking of Booger, Curtis Armstrong, he's always popping up in stuff. And you're you don't realize instantly who it is.
Yeah.
And you're I know who that is.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's in Better Off Dead with John Cusack. Is that?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's in I reckon he's in Less Than Zero as well. But even he was, I could be wrong, he was a security guard in either Workaholics or Community, one of the two.
Yeah.
He was a campus security guard, and I thought that was quite funny to
That's
go
good.
from the nerd to the campus security guard, given the story of this. You also got James Cromwell popping up in there.
Absolutely.
There's also a bit of John Goodman is the coach in this.
That's right. Yep.
It's pretty funny, the amount of people that pop up in minor roles, and even if you don't know them by name, the second you see their face, you're oh, that guy's in every movie of the 80s ever.
Yeah.
It's kind of an unsung hero now. I remember when we were growing up, this was one of the comedy greats. This was an Adam Sandler film of the mid 80s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everyone's you've got to see this, and it kind of died out.
Yeah.
And you don't hear about it anymore unless it's in a negative connotation.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But once again, it's a product of its time. Like a lot of those films, like Porky's and even Screwballs and stuff like that. It's just they couldn't get made nowadays, but for what they were at the time, they were comedy classics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think it's time to jump back into a little bit more music Before we continue down this journey, this is 100.5 WOW FM.
People think they're seeing ghosts, and they call these bozos who conveniently show up to deal with the problem with a fake electronic light show.
Everything was fine with our system until the power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
They caused an explosion.
Is this true? Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
This is Dave's Video Graveyard.
It is Dave's Video Graveyard. Shout out to Shanks hitting us up on social media. And funnily enough, Dave was just saying off air that those who can't do direct. Now, why don't you tell us, David, about your history of filmmaking? What have you done? Time for a humble brag.
Ooh,
I brought it up, so it's not being big-headed.
Okay. Oh, well, that's okay.
Have you worked with Russell Crowe?
I have, believe it or not. Very good. Yeah, I did. I worked with Russell Crowe on I was only on for a few days. I was like a replacement clapper
Let me
loader.
guess, on a fitness video?
If only. If
Right.
only, yeah.
Right.
A Russell Crowe fitness video directed by the South Park guys, I reckon.
I'm on board.
That would be good, yeah. So I worked on a film called The Water Diviner, which he directed as well.
That was in Borough?
It was in Corn, and...
So Jonathan Davis was also in the film?
Yeah, definitely, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Of course he had to make an appearance.
The extended Freak on a Leash cuts
Yeah, exactly.
featured in that one. Wow, that's awesome. Who else have you managed to work with?
Well, on that same film, I worked with one of my heroes, which is Andrew Lesney, the cinematographer. So he shot Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
Great guy, really nice guy.
And you were talking crap about Lord of the Rings just before.
Yeah, I know, exactly. If if he was still around to hear this, he'd probably kick my ass. But but the main thing with him is because he's worked with Peter Jackson a lot. So that was sort of the main thing. I was just like, oh yeah, there's a bit of a Peter Jackson connection, if anything else.
Yep.
Everyone else is like, oh yeah, he shot Lord of the Rings. I'm like, yeah, but he worked with Peter Jackson, who did Bad Taste. So
nice.
That to me is more impressive. So I've worked with James Cromwell as well, and that was obviously a big thing, being a Revenge of the Nerds fan,
Yes,
and the fact that he was the Lewis's dad in Revenge of the Nerds,
And you also being a big Species 2 fan, of course.
Of
the
course.
film he's known for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not
yeah.
Babe.
Definitely not Babe. No, exactly.
But then you've also got a George Miller connection of the same as the Peter Jackson connection.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. Yeah,
Nice.
if you're a Happy Feet fan or Mad
Who
Max.
isn't? Excuse me, anything that involves, even if it's CGI, Hugh Jackman tap dancing. Like, hello.
Who else? I worked with Dev Patel from Slumdog Millionaire on a film called Hotel Mumbai, which was really cool.
How'd you manage that?
Well, it was shot here in Adelaide for quite a bit of it, and then they did shoot a bunch in India. I didn't, so I was only on that for a couple of days, just as an additional camera operator.
So it's not my words; it's your words. You're saying that Adelaide doubles perfectly for a third world location.
Yes, exactly. I know.
No.
It was pretty much, it's like, well, we can't shoot in India at the moment. What's our next choice?
Arndale Car Park.
That's it, yeah. Couldn't get Elizabeth Car Park, so had to go for Arndale.
That was taken by the trolley races of that weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Arndale Car Park. Me and Andrew Shanks have spent a bit of time there.
Oh, haven't we all? But you couldn't shoot in the Elizabeth Car Park also because of the sound of the push bikes with motors on it.
Yeah.
We all know. Lovely. Shout out to all our Elizabeth listener. Yeah, man, that's pretty awesome. What else? Are there any more?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because I sometimes get just calls to work on stuff just for additional days and all that, and it's kind of one of the cool things about it is just occasionally you get called up, and the one of the more recent things I worked on was a TV show called Aftertaste that has Eric Thompson in it and Rachel Griffiths. So I just did a couple of days on that, and my partner Kelly did basically the whole TV show. So yeah, it's kind of cool to work on those things, and working with people like Russell Crowe and Andrew Lesney. You just sort of realise that they're all pretty really nice people. And, Russell was really, really great. We got to, because I was working on I think I did a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And on the Friday, we just had a big party. I think we were shooting close to Port Augusta. So he put on a bit of a party for us. And
Sweet.
I think we screened The Wolf of Wall Street had just come out.
Nice.
So he did a screening of that. And
Korn performed.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Nice. Awesome. And did you get any of the 30-odd foot / The Ordinary Fear of God playing?
Funnily enough, we did get a little bit of that because there was
bet.
music
I
playing,
bet.
and it was everyone would have to sort of go up and put a song on. There was a little bit of that, and
I bet.
Yeah, it was
It exists.
It exists. It's a thing. It's a thing. But it took all my strength to not put on that South Park bit with Tugger. Yeah. Making movies, making songs, and fighting around the world.
That would have been fantastic.
But
You've missed an amazing opportunity.
I know. But yeah, it's in general, everyone's super nice on film sets. I think it's just because it's one of those things where everyone's doing it for so long, and you become like a bit of a family, and all have to get along.
Part of it probably would also be it's not like a regular job where maybe you don't want to be there.
Yeah,
everyone has a common goal of getting it done.
Absolutely.
So I reckon that would be, but also that would create a high stress situation as well in a lot of cases.
Absolutely, yeah, because there's a lot of money going on, into the film. Each day you're running behind. It costs the production more. You have to do more days.
Now, you hear a lot about the power dynamics between the director and the cinematographer. How often are you grinning and bearing it? How often do you grit your teeth and do a shot that you know is not the shot you want? Or is that at the point where you go, hypothetically, would you ever, not really, but ruin a shot because you know there's a better one? Or... You're like, here, I did your shot, but my thumb's in front of the camera.
I must admit, not really, because
you're a professional.
Because I'm a professional, yeah. Now, I guess it's one of those things where, for me, it's like, even if I don't agree with something, I think having a good relationship with your director is almost as important, if not more important, than doing really brilliant work, because I mean, at the end of the day, everyone I collaborate with, I generally get along really well with. Occasionally, you might not gel with someone quite as much.
You might meet an Andrew Shanks of the world, you're saying.
Exactly, yeah. You meet Andrew Shanks of the world, and just every minute of every day is grueling.
Yeah.
And all he wants to do is talk about Spike Lee films, and you're just like, just be quiet.
Mate,
I don't care.
We can all film someone on a skateboard moving towards the camera. Exactly. It's not that special.
Exactly. Samuel L. Jackson will be in the film, don't worry. He's coming up soon.
I really enjoy telling Spike Lee fans that The Inside Man's the best thing he's ever done. Neverland, ever.
Did they just glaze over?
They just don't bother talking. It's the same as when I say I don't enjoy pretty much anything that David Lynch has done.
Yeah.
And you just get the glazing over and they're no longer going to listen to me.
Yep.
And then I try to bring up Demolition Man and they're not interested at all.
They're not interested at all.
No.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like it is kind of funny is when you do bring that up and you just sometimes you go I remember I had a conversation with someone once and it was about a particular foreign film and I just went, you know what, I just don't get it, and they were like, well, maybe you just don't understand the nuances of it, and I'm like, no, it was just really boring.
I got to do a tiny bit of extra work on Rib Spreader from our good friend Dick Dale.
Brilliant.
And I was like, oh man, all these intimidating horror film dudes are going to be there. So I nailed it in the most perfect me way possible. I rocked out, I'm like, sorry I'm late, guys. I was watching Pixels. And just the no one talked to me the whole shoot. It was so good. I was like, yes, nailed it. That's exactly what I wanted to happen.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I've Dick's great. I've done a few days on Rib Spreader as well, just doing a bit of camera work. But yeah, that film is going to be amazing.
It is going to be the bad boy bubby of our generation. It's going to put Adelaide back on the map for
Absolutely.
film. It's going to be a lot of special things to a lot of people.
Absolutely. I think you look at someone like Dick Dale and his just his passion for films. And, you know, like when I was sort of first getting into the industry, I sort of, you know, I watched a lot of like his like short films because like, you know, I'm such a big splatter movie fan. And I can't remember exactly how I got... oh, that's right, because Trashorama Film Festival, he was still doing that at that stage. And I was like, wow, like a trash film festival in Adelaide? Wow, this looks great. And I went along to it, and I was like watching these amazing short films and going, wow, these are the sort of films I would like to make. And I sort of like got to know Dick through that and helped him out in a few of his short films. Even he made one short film, which you should check out, Dave, called Dialadero.
Right.
You can watch it on YouTube. And I played not only did I help out Dick with, like, I was just like doing lighting and helping him out, but I either play the role of a door-knocking religious person.
Lovely.
I think my actual credited role was Jesus Freak.
Nice.
So, yeah, if you want to, you should definitely go and check that out at some stage. It's my crowning achievement, I think.
Forget working with Rusty.
Nah.
It's got nothing on Dick Dale.
Absolutely.
Adelaide's own superstar, absolute superstar. The amount of times that back in the day I'd go and see Kamikaze play, fronted by Dick Dale.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. We'd supported them a couple times. They supported us. Lots of fun gigs. And every time Dick would get onto film and all he would ask is, have you watched Body Melt yet? Have you watched Body Melt yet? And that was like, honestly, maybe a 13-year conversation of every time I saw Dick Dale. He's like, have you watched Body Melt yet? Finally watched it. I'm like, oh, that's what he was talking about. This is a movie. Let's jump back into the music now, and we will continue the list here on 100.5. In fact, no, forget the music. Let's get back into the list. This is DVG.
But I think that the music was a little loud.
Are you afraid of it?
No, I just don't like techno.
You would if you had robot ears.
All the movies, none of the knowledge. This is Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 Wow FM.
I hate your face.
Did you say something?
Released by Michael Bay's Platinum Dune, starring Jessica Biel. We are talking about 2003's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Not really. We're going back to 1974 to talk about the film that started it all, really. From Tobe Hooper, who shut up Steven Spielberg. He did direct Poltergeist.
100%.
Why did you pick this movie?
It once again goes back to one of these things where seeing the cover for this movie in the video store, it just intrigued me. And I think I'm pretty sure this is the cover that made me go, wow, horror is amazing. Yeah, because I don't know about you, Dave, but like in our video store, like both the two video stores in Murray Bridge, they both had like sectioned off sections, which was like horror and the porn.
Yes.
And it was one of these things where we weren't, I don't know about you, but we weren't actually allowed to be in there as kids.
No, it was the same with the Plains Video, which was my local.
Ah, Plains Video. Mum and Pop?
No, it went on to be bought out by Video Easy, but it was the Plainsman was the logo, which was like a guy in a dryzer bone with a cowboy hat. And the tagline was, "Are you a Plainsman yet?" So it was a franchise, but it was also kind of still in the Wild West days before franchises were really,
That's brilliant.
thing. So you'd maybe get like an X-rated movie would be in with the adult section. So, it was fly by the seat of their pants the way it was run, but it was glorious. They had I'd love to think it was Gyprock, but I'm pretty sure it was an asbestos castle that all the kids' movies were on. And down the back, there was an asbestos cabin that was originally painted like the Evil Dead cabin, and that was a horror section. But as it grew and grew, that was moved out, and it got painted pink like a love shack. And it was, I scale Broken Hill archives and stuff for photos of it because, man, it was something special. This movie is so... For a lot of people, like, there's a lot of entry-level horror movies. So you get the likes of The Evil Dead is obviously a big one for a lot of people. A lot of other movies, like I said, Poltergeist, even Jaws. There's a lot of entry-level horror movies. This one, to me, is the entry-level to visceral horror.
Yeah.
I happened to see Day of the Dead before I saw this one, so this was tame in comparison to me. It is so, still to this day, as you could hear from the trailer, super upsetting though.
It is, yes. And I think that's kind of why I like it. Because it's one of these films where, like, I found that you look at a lot of the horror movies and the covers were obviously, you know, a lot of them, the covers are actually way better than the films. And it's just like, well, marketing's really doing their job, you know?
We unfortunately don't live in the world of matte painting anymore. Like the cover art, like where it looked insane. Like the amount of VHS I have in my collection where it's like, this is amazing. And you watch it and it's garbage.
Yeah.
And you're like, what that... They spent all their money on getting the front cover of this movie painted.
Absolutely. And I think, like, because a lot of these films were, like, during that VHS phase throughout the 80s, pretty much if you're, you know, like, you could make a very crappy film for very little money, but if your poster was great or it had a snappy title, you know, like a classic case. Have you ever watched Gun Massacre?
I have, yes.
Okay, yeah. Classic case, terrible film. Kind of fun to watch, really, with all the one-liners. But there was so much of that in the 80s where it's like it's got a great title, it's got fantastic cover art. You know, like
I remember a VHS, I believe it was called Cut and Run.
Yeah,
and the cover had Michael Berryman with a big machete, like just staring on the cover.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
done
yeah.
in like a painting style.
Yes,
and
yes.
it looked amazing with like bright yellows and reds with all the topography and stuff. And then you watch it, and it's like, was this shot with like a handy cam in it? It's not even a jungle; it's just potted plants.
That's it. Yeah,
and you get the Ghoulies was another one where you're like expecting high production value. But then on the other hand, there were movies where I think that worked against itself. Like for me, The Gate.
Yeah.
The cover looks crap.
It does.
But the amount of creative, practical, you know, production values in that movie is insane.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I agree. It's like, because I think the version of The Gate, I know there's obviously a few.
There's the lenticular one.
That's it, yeah.
Yep.
That's the one we had. And it was just like, well, it doesn't sound very good. I think like maybe if you flip the box over, you sort of see the creatures and you're like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like I guess going back to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is I remember the cover that I've got has got a girl like lying down on the fridge. It's the girl who gets put on the meat hook.
Yep.
And it's not like the traditional cover with the like white background and, you know, like that you normally see with the poster. And it just looked very. It almost looked like a documentary, like a Shocking Asia. I don't know if you remember those,
or like a Cannibal Holocaust.
Cannibal Holocaust,
yeah.
Exactly. And I sort of looked at that, and then you flip the box over and it goes, you know, like warning. Not the exact one, but the same cover art. Because when I was working at a video store at one stage, they were getting rid of all their VHS, so I just like scooped up all the horror because they literally said, we don't want any of this, do you want it? And I said sure, and I think I gave them $5 and I just took
remember
everything.
our local Video Easy in a weekend.
Gone.
Friday filled to the brim with VHS, Monday filled to the brim with DVD.
Wow.
That's 2-day transfer and everything was gone.
Did you get anything?
I remember I got the movie Renegade.
Oh, yep.
I got the Nutty Professor.
Brilliant.
And I think the one that I cherished for a very long time until I moved and left it was the Coffin Case Fright Night.
Fright Night, brilliant.
Which I didn't think much of. Oh, and I also got the door opening Friday the 13th. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 with the white case that you'd swing open like a door and his claws were through it.
Brilliant.
And I never thought anything of it as well. And that they all ended the same fate of me moving house and leaving the box at one stage.
Oh, brilliant. Are they still back at home, you think?
No,
or?
they wouldn't be. It was a share house that no one even remembered who the lease was for. We'd had it for that long. One of those houses.
It's brilliant.
So I'd hate to think where that ended up. But, you know, it's only $160 in bad condition now. So, you know, I don't regret that whatsoever. I think it's time to play a little bit of music, unless you got anything else on Texas Chainsaw. What did you think of the Jessica Biel version?
I thought it was all right. I enjoyed it. I don't mind remakes that much with horror. Like, I try to treat it as much as possible as like, this is a new movie, and Jessica Biel was pretty good in it and pretty good looking.
She was well shaped.
She was indeed. And
singlets are good sometimes.
They are, absolutely. Every time you see a screen, like a little screen grab of it, you're like, I really should rewatch that film.
I like singlets and like those flare things. But anyway, we're not being objectifying. We are just enjoying movies.
You're listening to Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 WOW FM.
Every so often here on DVG, you have a film bro come on in, and it's not often that they pull out the big guns, but this evening we've been graced with, starting off, you've picked a movie called Citizen Kane. Well known as being one of the worst movies ever made.
Yes, closely followed by The Room, I believe. Yeah.
It's something from Neil Breen, The Room, and then Citizen Kane.
Yes.
I think are the bottom three on IMDb.
Fateful Findings, The Room.
Oh man, that's the best one.
It's so good.
Why have you chosen 1941's Citizen Kane?
Well, look, it sounds like it is very cliched, but it all like comes back to, it's probably the one film me and my brother watched a lot of, because it was the one, for us, it was the one classic film that we're like, this is actually really, really good, and we really enjoyed everything about it. It's just like, it's a good story, there's interesting music.
Citizen Kane is a masterclass in filmmaking.
It is,
as well as being a classic. These are the kind of things where making the film, because Orson Welles being such a control freak at the time, he wanted low angles to make to make Foster Kane's area look absolutely palatial.
Absolutely. And
to tie into that, he also paid so much attention to sound design, because we're talking about Orson Welles behind I'm having War of the Worlds. He had such a flair for sound design and stuff. To then the way he would get, they'd shoot a room that wasn't necessarily that big, but by putting the camera on the ground, shooting diagonally up, and then adding in the echoing footsteps and stuff like that.
I know.
So effective, but because it was inventive at the time.
Yeah.
It created all these film styles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it was a film that they never, that whole low angle thing meant that they had to put roofs on the sets. They had to
put ceilings on sets.
And that never happens because, obviously, they put lights there, and obviously it's of great cost, so you have to, have a different way of lighting it.
It's like Liam Neeson in episode 1 being too tall for all the sets, and they had to actually build up the sets higher, which was upsetting. Just pull the green screen a tiny bit higher.
Yeah, exactly. Not the only upsetting thing about that film.
Yeah, I know that it's not much longer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Extended cut. So, and I just find I think part of what some of these movies are the reason they're in my list is just that sort of fascination with filmmaking and the actual filmmakers themselves. I find Orson Welles so fascinating in the fact that he was lauded as this genius, and Citizen Kane and its follow-up, The Magnificent Ambersons, I think are masterpieces. But then it all sort of goes downhill from there, and his films,
Excuse me, you're not going to throw any barbs at overweight, puffed out voice of a Transformer Orson Welles, are you?
No, 100% not. As far as I'm concerned, in 1985 when that was released, he actually redeemed himself before he passed away.
Yeah.
No, because was it Optimus Prime? No, he didn't do.
He was Galvatron.
Galvatron. Yeah, that's right. Yes.
I think. Yeah,
I think so.
We'll go with that.
We'll go with that. Yeah, exactly. Andrew Shanks will pull us up on that, no doubt. So, no, 100%. Totally redeemed in the Transformers movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, it is quite, it doesn't happen too often, but sometimes a movie is chosen by a guest that I know nothing about. And that is the case this evening, because when I first read your list, I'm like, oh, yeah, he has picked Guest House Paradiso. And then I reread the list. I'm like, oh, dang it. You've chosen Cinema Paradiso from 1988.
Yep.
What is this movie?
Well, before I go into it, just very quickly, I actually got this movie mixed up with Guest House Paradiso. Is it Guest House Paradiso? I got this mixed up because when I was at film school, a mate of mine loved Guest House Paradiso so much, and he said to me, "You've got to watch it. It's so good." And I went off and I watched Cinema Paradiso, and then years later I came back to him and I said, I finally watched it. I watched Cinema Paradiso, and he goes, no, you idiot. It was Guest House Paradiso. What the hell is Cinema Paradiso? I'm like, ugh.
Yeah,
Good.
I don't see the audience crossing over for these two films.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, look, once again, if you're not familiar with the film, Cinema Paradiso is like an Italian film from 1988, I think. Yep. Yeah. And it's all about a little kid in Italy who, loves going to the cinema, and he sort of befriends the projectionist, who's this grumpy old dude. And they
and then
sort
a
of
golden ticket makes Arnold Schwarzenegger come out of the screen?
I believe so, yeah. And then he goes full commando. And
wait, that's Last Action Hero. My bad.
Yeah, that's okay. It's all right. I also got those two mixed up. Yeah, and basically what happens is, he wants to become a filmmaker as well, and he sort of, goes off and becomes a filmmaker, and then one day sort of comes back, and I don't really want to give away the film, but a lot of it is that nostalgia for the movies and the love of the films, and sort of what made the lead character he left his childhood sweetheart and his childhood town to go have bigger ambitions in probably in Rome, and basically make movies there and leave his past behind. And I think for me a lot of that was about less grand scale, but the fact that I left Murray Bridge, the town I grew up in, and I came to the big smoke of Adelaide to become a big famous film person. And I just, once again, I think the film really resonates for me, and I love movies about the movies, I guess.
Yep.
So and then also Ennio Morricone, who did a lot of the spaghetti westerns.
Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
Originally The Thing, till it was cut out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I only just found that out recently.
But it's cool because it did get used for The Hateful Eight.
It did too. That's right. Reused by our good friend Tarantino.
Queenie.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a lot to do with it, Dave. It's and I think that's some of those choices are purely that is I think in films a lot of the time, we want to have a connection with those characters, and I just found a connection with that.
Awesome.
That's not too film bro, is it?
Nah, not at all.
It's all
man.
right?
Not at all, because you didn't mention Zack Snyder once.
Oh, yeah.
How does it tie to Sucker Punch?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I go into a full 20-page description about exactly how they all marry together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's when you got to tie them together.
Yeah.
Shanks has just let us know it's Unicron, and he's not very happy with us.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I'm screwed.
Yeah, you've ruined it.
Damn.
And I hope he didn't hear us say that Judd Nelson wasn't like Rodimus Prime, but he was in fact from Steel with Shaq. Anyway.
That's all right. Just go listen to Stan Bush a little bit, Shanks, and reminisce.
That's it. Let's jump back into the music. This is 100.5 Wow FM.
Looks like you're keeping your bod pretty tight.
You looking pretty good yourself?
Well, every day's a workout when you gotta carry around a 20-pound python in your jeans.
You and your dick comments.
It's fun to say them.
It's fun to hear them.
That's why I say them.
And that's why I listen.
All the movies, none of the knowledge. This is Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 Wow FM.
It is time to talk about a classic 1982, the second best 1982 Alien movie. We are talking about E.T. the Extraterrestrial, David Gregan's favourite films of all time. This is a movie that you've had a bit of a complicated past with because you said this was one that freaked you out as a kid.
It did.
Is it the baseball pizza scene outside the house?
Yes, it was. As soon as that...
when he screamed in the torchlight?
That's right, yeah. It was just with the little fishies, they all flipped over, and it definitely wasn't when E.T. was lying on the rocks all white and looking all gross.
The lying on the rocks, or in the dodgy cart, him in the bathtub, totally drained of colour.
That's right, yeah.
And also, I have to say, as much as Spielberg promised that movies shouldn't be touched, have you seen the atrocity from 2007?
Of course.
where they've CGI'd all of E.T.'s skin
Absolutely.
and eyes, and it's so bad.
It is terrible.
And I think the other big thing was because, you know, everyone talks about cancel culture now, but we're talking about a movie where they had to turn shotguns into walkie-talkies for no reason. Have you done the thing yet where I only did it maybe last year? You watch E.T. as if the head scientist that's after E.T. is actually a good guy.
No.
There's this thing online, like a whole theory, where if you watch it and you side with him, it totally changes the whole movie because you realize that like Elliot and that are more of a hindrance to E.T.'s survival than they are like an actual help.
Well, that's true because he gets sick.
Exactly.
And they're trying to escape from... I never thought about it that way.
I know. Watch it. It would change your mind. But also, yeah, man, this movie is a timeless classic. My wife's favourite movie of all time. Why'd you pick it?
Look, it is a film that both scared me and...
Turned you on.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was one of those films where, like, when I first saw it, it was like... It was quite scary with all those sort of scenes, but also, like, quite amazing. And I think that sort of... some of the fear factor and the fact that it makes you, like... feel a certain way is sort of, I guess it also sort of drew me into horror, you know, like it's that kind of like taboo type thing.
Yeah.
And I remember like there was a book at our school library about E.T. and two of the pictures in there, I don't know why they put it in there, was the like image of E.T. on the ground in the bathroom, sick, and him on the rocks, and I would always just go into the library, and I don't know why, I was just like torturing myself. I'd open it up, and I'd flip through it, and I'd go, can I look at it? Can I look at it? I've looked at it, oh my God.
Man,
and then I just put it back on the shelf. And I think, like, for ages I was heaps scared of it, and also the thing about, like, when we were living in Murray Bridge, we had, like, quite a big garden as well, and, like, we had, like, this, like, sort of, it wasn't a forest, but, like, it was, like, quite a large tree area, and I think when I was a kid, I would, like, never want to go...
Murray Bridge, it was just a pile of needles.
It was essentially a... yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Broken pipes.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Painted green by the council.
The forest of broken needles, you know? Yeah.
There were definitely needles, but they weren't pine.
They weren't. Exactly. Yeah, so I think, it's one of those things where it both scared me but also intrigued me. And I think just like watching it as I sort of grew up more and more, I'm just like, man, this film is just incredible. And it all goes back to nostalgia, I think. And look, honestly, part of also picking it is just so I can like name drop Mac and Me, which is obviously the superior of the Alien
best
E.T.
friend
knockoffs.
of the show, Casey's favourite movie of all time.
Oh, yes.
It is the McDonald's ad of E.T.
It certainly is.
That's amazing. Yeah, like so many people haven't seen Bilo brand E.T. Mac and Me, but it needs to be seen. But you have to appreciate E.T. first for you to even go down that journey. Well, it is time to get in. You know, we've talked about a classic, but we haven't talked about a classic, and that's what it's time for right now. This is DVG.
And if someone comes up to you with an attitude, you say, eat me. And if you want to shine them on, it's hasta la vista, baby.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah, or later, dickwad.
You're listening to Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 Wow FM.
The amount of superhero movies that get all this credit for being super gory or super violent don't come anywhere near to Troma's 1984 opus, The Toxic Avenger. One of the most violent movies I'd seen at the time. Like, honestly, this is one of those movies where I had to beg. There was... In the Plains video, there was an R-rated version and an M-rated version, and I actually did the tape swap for the first time, and I had to convince Mum to let me hire the M-rated version, which she did, and I got to enjoy the full unrated cut. My personal favourite of the trilogy, well, quadrilogy now, the part 2. There was something so silly and over the top about it. Now, the thing I do enjoy about Troma films, they have so much heart, so much trash, and you know, Lloyd Kaufman is one of the coolest movie makers of all time. He's essentially like the proto Dick Dale, really.
Pretty much.
And it's amazing what he manages to churn out with so much love, you know, but they're also in on the joke. Yeah, like, we're trying to make the best thing ever, but we know it's not going to be the best thing ever, so we're going to make the absolute best thing that we can ever make. And you get this movie that is so insane, but also just delivered. Everything's turned up to 11 in this movie, and all of Troma's movies, really. I absolutely love. One thing I'll say about it, revisiting this, the sound design is horrid. It is absolutely horrid. If you're not a fan of screaming and people being like, I think modern movies actually lose it now. Because, say there's a modern movie where someone gets attacked with a chainsaw. The sound design just turns the chainsaw up so much and you get the yell in the background. This was before then, where all it is the extra or the actor just screaming in pain for way longer. So this is the kind of movie that, I want to sit up after my kids are gone to bed and watch, but I have to turn it off because it is just so loud, the amount of screaming and violence in it. It also touches, because Troma wanted no rules, so it touches on so many taboo subjects. You've got kids getting killed, all these other things. They go where no one else will. A next level amount of gore, particularly like the opening with a bunch of teenagers driving around, running over people. All done practically, all done with super amounts of gore. And one thing that I love about this is actually the thing I hate about the likes of Sharknado, where movies like Sharknado that think they're funny just off the title and don't have to deliver other than the concept. This is a silly concept delivered as if it is Citizen Kane.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the fourth movie is called Citizen Toxic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They know what they're giving you.
Yes.
And that's what the charm of these movies are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's apologetically Troma.
Yeah.
To put it in a weird way, I guess.
And it's so great when a film company can actually become a genre of film.
Yeah,
because it's
definitely.
It's a Troma movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those films where I don't know how you first heard about it, but I literally just watched the trailer on another Troma movie.
Yeah.
I can't remember even what it was. Maybe it was like Sergeant Kabuki Man. And I just looked at this trailer. I'm like, I have to own this film. This looks fantastic.
For me, funnily enough, it was that thing we were talking about earlier. It was the cover of the VHS.
Ah, right.
It is just so amazing.
Wow.
And then, funnily enough, later in the 90s, I become obsessed with the Toxic Crusaders.
Yes.
And it's all of the same ilk. So if you go back and watch this movie only knowing about the Toxic Crusaders, and you realise that we were that generation that were given all these childhood properties. Like we got RoboCop cartoons, Rambo the cartoon, all these movies where if you look at the movie that they've spun off from, it's probably why we're a pretty messed up generation.
Absolutely.
I'm not blaming anyone, but just saying. Man, this movie is violent.
It is. It is. I would be really interested to know, because I've only ever watched the unrated version. So I'd be interested to see what the non-unrated one.
I'm not interested. It's an M-rated version in Australia, but I'm not interested.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wouldn't be interested. I'd probably just turn it off. So you probably wouldn't have the full head-crushing scene, I assume, with the weights bench.
I think that, and also the car backing up over the kid.
Over the kid. How much is a kid on a bicycle, you know? It's just such a... Yeah, like, all their films are just, so... as I said, unapologetically themselves, and Lloyd just makes it with such passion, I think.
Uncle Lloyd.
I know, he's so great. I've met him, actually.
Yeah, what was that like?
It was very good. It was very good.
I've heard he's always on.
He is always on, yes. Yeah. I actually went, a few years ago, me and my partner went to New York, and there was, a day off where we were like, we'll just go and do our own thing, and I booked a tour of Troma Studios, and I rocked up there, and, it's in, Long Island City, and it's... it just looks like trashed everywhere, and it's really whoa, okay, it looks like it would have looked in the 80s. So it's there's graffiti all over the wall, all over the walls. There's I swear I saw a trash can on fire. And I rock up and I knock on this door, and this guy answers yeah, what do you want? And I'm like, I'm here for the tour. And he's like, what? And I'm like, the tour you could book online. He's like, oh, okay. And so this teenager just tours me around the building into the basement and all that sort of stuff, and just sort of shows me this office, while the rest of the interns are all you want a tour of this place and you're all the way from Australia. I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. And I saw, and this whole tour, I'm like, I wonder if Lloyd's here. This would be amazing. And I looked down the corridor, and he goes, and I'll introduce you to Lloyd in a minute. And he was silhouetted against this window. And I was just it was like God was there. Yeah. He goes, I'll take you down to the basement to see the archives, and then I'll take you back up. And I guess just quickly, I met him, and he was the nicest dude I've ever met, and he was so nice and interested. Like, you know, I said I'm from Australia and I'm into movies, and we chatted for like half an hour at his desk, and then he just gave me all these like signed posters, and I was just like, and I was trying to pay him for it. He's like, no, you came all the way from Australia to us here in Long Island City. And I just went, look, that's why I love these movies so much, is because it's made with passion by an awesome guy.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I've done pretty much up until the late 90s. I followed all the Troma films.
Yep.
But I kind of fell off around like Poltergeist. I haven't seen Father's Day, but I've told that I'm wrong for not seeing that.
It's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Some of the later ones all meld into one a little bit. Like, I sometimes get confused with Poltergeist and Terra Firma, and even like Return to Nukem High and all that.
Yep.
I can't even remember really what they are, but you know, stuff like Rabbit Grannies and Sergeant Kabuki Man, or I don't know, they're a bit different. So yeah. But
they're not completely accessible, which is also a bit of charm of Troma.
I totally agree. Yeah, like I think if you showed a lot of people Troma movies, they'd be like, yeah, I feel like it's almost a bit of a brotherhood of Troma films.
Yes.
And one of the guys, Dan Vink, who is one of the Fury Fingers guys as well, when I was at film school, I met him, and like I think he was wearing a Toxic Avenger shirt, and I said, "You like Troma movies, don't you?" He goes, "Yeah." And I instantly went, "I'm going to like this guy," you know, amongst all the Fellini-loving film snobs. I'm like, this is good. This is good. Dave, could I quickly ask, do you know what your favourite Troma film is?
Toxic Avenger.
It's Toxic. Oh yes, you did say. Sorry, I love the fact that he goes to Japan, and it's just so comically silly.
I just love the over the top, because it did become a cartoon by the second one.
Yeah.
It lent a lot harder into the comedy. So like the likes of like Michael Jai White and the start getting turned into a basketball and dunked, and just the whole thing. And I was a huge fan of his girlfriend as well in the second one. Don't know what it was about her. I just enjoyed her.
She
seemed nice. She seemed nice.
Yeah, she did, didn't she?
Yeah. Much like Michael Myers is the Shape. She was the Shape of this movie. It's a good time. Let's get into a little bit of music before we continue your list. Don't forget you can join in the conversation, Dave's Video Graveyard, on all your social media.
This is DVG on WOW FM.
It is Dave's Video Graveyard. We're joined by David Gregan, the cinematographer / street fighting man. He is here to tell us all about his 10 favourite films of all time, and it's time to talk about American Movie.
Yeah. You haven't seen this one, have you, Dave?
I haven't. I do own it because it's always on those lists of movies that people need to see. What is this movie?
It's a documentary about a filmmaker in Milwaukee who is his name's Mark Borchardt, and he's an independent filmmaker, and he's trying to make his feature film called Northwestern, and it's hard to explain, but it's just so. Well, it's set in Milwaukee, so I think that sort of explains a lot of it, Dave. But just some of the characters in it, like he's got a friend who has been severely affected by drugs and taking too many drugs, and his mate is a guy named Mike Shank, and he does all the music for it, and just the band.
Anyone with the syllable Shank in their last name is a terrible person.
Is a terrible person with no quality.
It is a fact.
I'm never going to be able to talk to Shanks ever again.
Oh, I didn't think of him. Oh. Awkward.
Yeah, it's just like, well, you said it. And it's I recommend anyone to sort of go out and watch it, but he's like basically trying to make this film, and at every turn he's sort of coming up against odds. Like he's not a wealthy guy. He comes from like quite a low socioeconomic background. He's got a drinking problem. His whole family's sort of against him as well. He, none of them really sort of support his dream. And I think it sort of comes back to the fact that I like seeing a movie about other filmmakers, which sort of comes back to the Cinema Paradiso thing. But he's just so it's so endearing, and it's a funny film. Like, it's not a serious documentary at all. I think you really like it, Dave. I've
heard so many people between this and The King of Kong. So many people like, you've got to see these two things because it's like a car accident in its execution and you don't want to look away.
Yep.
But at the same time, there's just something so endearing about watching it.
Absolutely.
So I got around to The King of Kong, but this is definitely on the list as well.
The King of Kong is a fantastic film.
Billy
as
Mitchell,
well.
I'm going to say legend.
He is indeed. Yes, he is indeed. He is the wizard.
He
was at one stage.
That's it. If you don't talk about all the awards he got stripped away from him, but that's another story for another time.
That's right. Yes.
Now it is time to hit the movies that mean the most to you. You couldn't make a distinction out of which one you like the most, so I let you pick two. You've gone with Brain Dead and Bad Taste from Peter Jackson.
Absolutely.
Or Dead Alive.
Dead Alive, yes, the American title, I believe, because there was already a Brain Dead in America, I believe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, these would almost be my number one, but something did sort of knock it off. But yeah, just like I think the reason I can't split them is like Bad Taste, which is Peter Jackson's first feature, is just so gory and ridiculous and over the top. That once again, I was just fascinated by this guy who basically made a movie completely on his own. There's a great doco you can watch called like Good Taste Made Bad Taste, and it's like 20 minutes. Have you seen it?
So good.
Yeah.
I also love just the breaking of the rules of the time of horror movies. I believe it's in one of... I feel like this started... I totally mix it up all the time, but one of the movies that was made by maybe Sam Raimi, because I believe he was friends with someone to do with the production.
Yes.
He had a poster for one of Peter Jackson's movies in the background of his movie.
Yes.
Torn. So then Peter Jackson put like one of his movies in the background with a poster that was ripped in half.
That's right.
And they kind of back and forth by like that kind of
ribbon
thing.
on each other.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I was like, that's awesome.
I try to remember like where was it in one of his later films where he did the rip poster of?
Yeah, I reckon it was The Frighteners.
The Frighteners. Yeah, yep. I think you were right. Yeah, but I think it's one of those things is, you know, like those alien masks that are in Bad Taste. Peter Jackson just like baked in his mum's oven.
Yes.
And like they've got those squash noses because he couldn't fit it in properly.
They look like the original Foot Soldier toys from Ninja Turtles.
They 100% do, don't they?
Yeah, even the way they stand.
Yeah, that's right. They're sort of like hunched over a little bit and I don't know, I also kind of like the fact that it was like, you know, made in New Zealand. And
I love they took about 2 years to make Bad Taste.
Absolutely.
And so kind of famously, one of the production dudes had the crappest mullet worst hairdo, and he had to keep that hairdo for 2 years because that's how long it took to make the movie. But what was also awesome was this was guerrilla filmmaking where like this is, you can tell why film guys love this movie because it was like one of those things where it was like, oh, I can't shoot this weekend, got a wedding on, but we'll do next week. And then someone couldn't come the following week, so we'll just do shots without them in it. And it's just, there was no rules.
No.
And in the end, much like we were talking about Lloyd Kaufman, should I say, you got a movie that was made with love more than anything else.
Absolutely, yeah.
And can you imagine, well, you're in the film industry yourself, but can you imagine anyone committing to something for 2 years that you know? Especially something that might not pay off in any real way.
Yeah, I mean, like, it takes a lot of commitment, but, I mean, Dick Dale's one of those.
Yeah, he's one of those for sure.
Fury Boys, definitely. Look, it does take that dedication, and honestly, like, a lot of, like, my filmmaking buddies know, it's just like, no one's going to hand you money. No. You need, unfortunately, like, it just doesn't matter. You need to go out there and like do it on your own.
Your biggest critic is yourself, but at the same time, your biggest supporter is also a lot of times yourself.
Absolutely,
so that's who's going to make it happen.
Well, it's one of those things where, like, I remember I read, like, I think there was an interview with Peter Jackson about how about 2/3 of the way through Bad Taste, he was supposed to shoot this big scene. And I think everyone was starting to get like sick of it. And so he rocked up on this day, had all this stuff planned, big scene, and no one showed up. Like, all his friends were just like, nah, we're going to a party this weekend, and he was the only one who showed up, and I don't know if he shot anything, but he just sort of sat there and he cried for a bit apparently, and then he goes, all right, cool, we'll do it again next weekend. Keep that mullet.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Before we run out of time, the final movie of your selections this evening is 1978's Dawn of the Dead, the prequel to the Zack Snyder cut of Dawn of the Dead.
That's it. Some would say the inferior Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, those people that don't understand anything. We get George A. Romero behind the camera, returning from Night of the Living Dead. This was his budget movie, but it was also the height of his satirical commentary. Like, it was just... He nailed every aspect of this film as far as I'm concerned. A lot of people point out a lot of the production problems, but honestly, you look at the half the scenes of this movie, the way the creative gore, the wish fulfillment of living in a mall. Like, there is so much going on in this movie, and it was just done in such a way. And much like a bit of a like complimentary film being Day of the Dead, the sound design and how bleak that movie is. This is before they lose hope. Day of the Dead's after they've lost hope.
Absolutely.
But this movie is fantastic. It's pretty much the same story as Night of the Living Dead, except it's the next morning.
Yep.
And they're holed up, well, you know, a couple of policemen or special forces guys hold up with a helicopter in the local mall, and it goes from there.
Yeah. It's interesting that you said, like, I've never thought about Dawn of the Dead being like they haven't lost hope and they're still fighting on, and Day of the Dead they have lost hope. I've never thought about it like that, but it's 100% true. It's like they're still confused about what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's gotten fully into the sort of zombie part of it, which is good. And I think that's probably why I like it a bit over Night of the Living Dead. And also it's like a lot gorier as well.
And I'm that guy that likes Tom Savini's 1990 Night of the Living Dead more than the original, so I'm that guy.
I'd probably agree with you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I watched
effects.
it.
Anytime Salvini's doing an effects and Greg Nicotero was along to help out.
He was.
What a time.
I know.
What a movie. And better ending as well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Dawn of the Dead, I don't know. Like, it was one of those films where, going back to the library, you know, like, but this is before internet days. We couldn't look this as stuff up. The only source of anything was like either books or like this I think we had this thing on our computer called Cinemania 97. Did you ever have that, Dave?
I didn't know, but I know that I saw Dawn of the Dead in 1996 because that's when it was finally re-released on video in Australia because it had all these issues with being banned and everything.
That's right.
So I never got to see it the first time around. It wasn't until 96 that I got to watch this. And I'll never forget that weekend because in the exact same weekend I hired From Dusk Till Dawn on the Friday night for the first time ever. And then when the blisters healed on Saturday night, I watched Day and Dawn in the one night. And
brilliant.
I was home alone. It was like my first time being allowed to stay home and watch movies and babysit myself. So to watch both the both the Dead movies in one night, I was so quiet. And Mum and Dad were convinced that like someone had knocked on the door or something had scared me. And I was like, I've just watched the bleakest movie ever and I'm like 12. So yeah, Dawn of the Dead is a timeless classic and anyone that's going to say that they're a horror fan has to have seen this.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I don't hate the 2004 Dawn of the Dead either.
I don't either. I thought it was really good when I watched it.
Yep.
It goes back to the fact of you treat a remake as a totally new film, and I thought it was good. I liked the 2004. I still prefer the 1978, but it was pretty good.
It is. It is a very tight, movie. The biggest thing is watching Phil Dunphy play like a womanizing, like sex pest in that. And it's like, cannot get used to this. Ty Burrell is not this person.
I know.
Believe it or not, we are out of time. We've got another couple minutes. And before we completely run out of time, let everyone know they can check out what you got going on and what do you have going on.
I guess
lots of secret stuff.
Lots of secret stuff. There's a couple of things in the works which I can't really mention just yet. But I'd probably say of the more recent things, check out Fury Fingers web series, which you can watch for free on YouTube, all 6 parts. It's called Love, Guns, and Level Ups. I reckon that is probably the best thing of mine to watch. Otherwise, you'll have to go and watch some old Liqueur News ads or something.
And where can people find you on the gram?
I've got 2 accounts. One is David Gregan DP, which is my professional account, my cinematography account.
For your double penetration.
Yeah. Yes, my double penetration account. Yeah, very important to have that.
Yep.
And then my other one is Davey Salami, which is my Ramones cover band / horror movie dump site. So
Awesome. Well, make sure you stick around, Dave. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. You're
Thanks for having
always
me.
welcome to come back and fly the flag of splatter horror.
Excellent.
Coming up, it is the Emerald Tower. Get very excited because Krez is in the studio and he is ready to do the 10 o'clock weather update. Believe it or not, this is 100.5 WOW FM.